Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Empower Hour with Alexandria Nicole. I am Alexandria Nicole, and hopefully, while you spend this hour with us, we do hope to motivate, inspire you, and most of all, empower you. So, I am here with Diana Greshchuk today. How you doing, darling?
I'm good. How are you?
I am awesome. I am awesome. So, yes, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, about your business, and then we'll get right into the questions.
Sure thing. Sure thing. So I am Diana Greshchuk. I founded Fan Your Flame in late December of 2021, that kind of week between Christmas and New Year's when you don't know what's happening, but you know any time of day is okay to have a drink. I decided to open a business, and it's for financial literacy coaching. So for me, I have been a CPA for over 20 years, and I really wanted to democratize access and bring equality and diversity to the group of people that are out there planning their futures financially, like the people that are out there budgeting, saving. They have debts. They come with a lot of stuff right now in the finance world. So I founded financial literacy coaching through Fan Your Flame in order to help people. And, it can be women, it can be the marginalized, misfits, the outcasts, whoever. Like, I just want people to have the ability to go after their dreams. And that means learning how to play the financial game, knowing the rules so that you can go get yours.
Oh, that's so true. I love that. So tell us what aspect of your work that you're most passionate about.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've been a CPA for 20 years or so. And I also just recently got certified in mindset work. And so, for me, it's not just about the outer work and cleaning up your finances, it's really about the inner work, the work on yourself, changing your vessel to be the vessel that holds the future self you want, the one that is capable of doing anything, the one that is empowered, the one that is your next level self and everything you ever wanted to achieve. And so the mindset work you need to make change and transformation sustainable is really what I'm after. So it's the inner work that makes the outer work work. And that's really the twist I bring and why I'm so passionate about it, because it's changed from the inside out. It's not just smacking band-aids on a really bad situation.
Yeah, and that's so true. I think a lot of times we don't get to the root of the foundation of an issue, and then we kind of perpetuate the same problems that are embedded in us instead of actually addressing the things and healing from that space and then prospering past that point.
Yeah, it's an inside job, and frankly, we have all the power. The programming that we have was created when we were very young. We were like little walking video cameras, absorbing everything we saw, giving it meaning, making it mean something, and then creating rules and beliefs. And so it might be that, oh, money is hard, or I'm bad at technology. Whatever that disempowering belief is can become your programming. So undoing that is super important.
Yeah, yeah, it's so important. I just wrote an article and it was focused on the financial literacy within children and parents being more intentional with having those money conversations at a young age. And a lot of what I spoke about is how once we become adults, if you don't have open, candid discussions with your parents when you're younger, you have this block about money. So it's automatically associated with either a taboo topic of discussion or something associated with anger or something associated with just not wanting to deal with it. So if you have that pattern throughout your life, you have to then undo that, like reverse that mindset by the time you're older. And who wants to really have to deal with that? Like, let's just be open with our kids and teach our kids what they need to know from a young age, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think too often people underestimate that because they don't always teach finance in schools to the level that everybody needs to, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat, to keep a good credit score, to not get into debt, to actually be set up for success through investing, to be able to save for retirement, to be able to handle any medical bills that come up at any point in time. Like, we get our money stories from watching our parents because they don't teach us any of that in school. So they're the only models that we have. And I don't know about you, I'm happy to talk about my origin story. You know, I was born and raised in Silicon Valley in San Jose, California, and it was a lot of keeping up with the Joneses during the tech boom. Um, but also, even though my parents had jobs and there were two incomes, we never seemed to have enough money, and they argued about it. And so as a little kid, my little meaning maker is in there saying, oh, I don't ever want to fight about money. I'm going to grow up and be an accountant or a finance person, and then I'll always be employable, and then I don't have to worry about money. And that's literally what my little Diana brain did. So that's my origin story. So yeah, we get it from our parents. So if parents aren't having those conversations with their kids, then those kids aren't getting it, and they're getting another story.
Oh my gosh. That's so good. It's like generational trauma, isn't it?
It sure is.
Oh my gosh. Well, what community outreach initiatives have you participated in the past, or you're currently working in, or do you do any outreach programs in the financial sector? Like, do you go into schools, or do you do any private coaching or anything like that as a way of giving back and, changing the trajectory of our future with our kids?
1,000%. So for me, I came out as lesbian when I was 21. And right now, LGBT, especially in the environment, the political environment before the current one, it wasn't really safe to be who you were. And there are a number of states right now that have initiatives on the ballot for Don't Say Gay. And that really impacts students. So I actually serve on the board of directors for something called the Point Foundation. And the Point Foundation gives financial scholarships and non-financial support to LGBTQ kids that have been marginalized or kicked out of their homes and otherwise wouldn't get to go to college. So they get full rides. There are partial scholarships. There are BIPOC scholarships. And being on the board is super rewarding because you get to really have your feet on the ground. I'm reviewing applications of the kids' stories and being just faced with the worst situation just for trying to be who they are and trying to be closer to their truth and not being able to do that and having opportunities taken away from them. So what the Point Foundation does is really, I'm very passionate about it.
So for the people that don't really know what Don't Say Gay is about, would you inform our viewers on what that is?
Sure. I'll give you my 4-year-old understanding of it because it's not something I track super closely. So I don't know all the ins and outs. But really, it's an initiative where if you find out that someone identifies that way or you identify them that way, really, they can sort of go tattle to the school officials, and then there can be ramifications for being who you are. Some, might get kicked out of school for saying gay or, being outed as gay when maybe they were trying to be closeted too. So there's a whole lot of layers to this about if someone finds out you are, all the discrimination that can happen after that. And then you layer on top of that, parents in those communities kicking their kids out. And then it's really like, what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah. And you said that you deal a lot with that kind of dynamic in the outreach programs that you deal with, kind of, or do you kind of find yourself being a therapist in those moments too, just like listening and, conveying your experience and attempting to lift them up in the financial realm, but also being there for them in their emotional state in that present moment?
Well, I'm certainly not a therapist, but for me, having studied mindset work and being a practitioner myself, what I really try to do is hold space. And by simply creating a safe space, by holding an area where around me they can talk about whatever they want to talk about, and I listen. And it's not even about me inserting my opinions. It's really talk to me, tell me what's going on, what is getting to you right now, what isn't letting you sleep at night. And a lot of it behind finance, when you think about it, it's never really just about the money. right? It's always about something behind the money. Like, what can the money do for you? Does the money get you freedom? Does the money, keep you out of pressure? Does the money do whatever for you? Does it keep your family safe? Can you provide for your kids? Like, it's never just about the money. And so for them, there's always an emotion behind the money. And so getting to the emotions and healing those and expressing those in a healthy way, that's even more important than the finance. Like I said, it's the inner work that makes the outer work work. Before you can talk
Mm.
about money, you got to be in a place, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's so funny because we live in such a society. I was just having this conversation about how a lot of times it's culturally acceptable for us to just wait to speak as opposed to actually listening. So that's really great that I picked up on you saying that you listen and you hold space for them. You allow them the opportunity to just be themselves and be vulnerable and to just listen. And sometimes that itself is just the greatest gift.
And
Sometimes people
narrative.
don't want you to insert your opinion onto them or when I was younger and I have this thing about me where I just want to fix everything for everybody. So if somebody comes to me and tells me they have a problem, I'm like instantly thinking of solutions. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized that sometimes people don't want you to try to save them. Sometimes they just want to offload and be able to tell you whatever it is they have to tell you and not be concerned about your judgmental facial expression or whatever that's going to look like for them, whatever they're guarded with, because that's the usual experience. But I really came to realize how powerful and how beautiful and how truly loving it is just to listen.
Yes. I can't tell you how many arguments my fiance and I have avoided by simply asking, do you want solutions or do you just want me to listen?
Yeah, yes, I've heard about that as tools in relationships, and it working so beautifully because it gives people the opportunity to articulate what it is that they're expecting from you. Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. So tell me, what inspires you, Diana?
Ooh, it really is this next generation of kids. And I get a little weepy every time I talk about it because especially like with the Point Foundation, like these are kids where society in a lot of cases would rather not have them there. They don't believe that they have a valid lifestyle, right? And so to be able to go out into society and make a meaningful contribution despite people rooting against you, just showing up, doing you, like this could be the generation, like they could find the cure for cancer, for AIDS, for COVID. These are the people that have to solve the problem of the plastics in the oceans. Like there's so much riding on them and they can do so much. We just need to give them the opportunities. And I feel like, I don't know about you, but the generation before me, the baby boomers, like those are the ones that had a lot of the opportunities and they're not quite letting go of them to trickle it down to other people yet. And so it's like, pass this on. Let these people who are really smart and have voices and something to say and things that need to be heard, let them say them and do good things in this world and get out of the way. Sometimes my
Mm.
job, besides holding space for people, is getting out of my own way that day so I can serve people in that capacity.
Oh, that's so good. Yes. Yes. So tell me, this is a big one. This is a loaded question here. What is the greatest lesson you've ever learned?
Ooh. So back in college, someone said to me, make sure you're on the right ladder before you start climbing.
Oh my God, put that on a t-shirt. That is so good. That is so good.
But
Yes.
here's the thing too, it's like you can spend days and get paralyzed with indecision looking for the right ladder. So at the same time, I think there's a trade-off that I've learned in my 20 plus years since hearing that is that yes, make sure something is aligned if you take action and move towards it, but also don't be afraid to like be organic and you're always going to find new things that call to you and that you might be aligned to. So it's also okay to switch ladders if that's what's right for you too.
It's so good. It's such a double entendre because I understand the power behind finding your own ladder. But I also on the other end feel like the wrong ladders that I have climbed, ultimately how wrong were they? Because I learned something from that position that strengthened me to be able to show up in the way I do now. You know what I mean? So it feels like yes, don't become rooted and so stubborn in your path and so fearful that you continue to climb up the completely wrong ladder, but also learn and retain what you do learn from the ladder that contributes to wherever it is that you are supposed to go. Oh, that's so good. I could think about that quote all night.
And I'll take it even further too. I love what you said right there, because maybe it was the wrong ladder or somehow something more aligned called to you. So there was a version of you that was a good decision for. Like, let's use an old job, right? There was a version of Diana years ago where that job was sufficient. That was everything she wanted. That made her really happy. And
Mm,
she also learned a lot from that. And now she's not at that same job, but there
right.
were things she had to learn and lessons. And so maybe in hindsight, it's the wrong ladder. So then we learn not to judge it, because that version of you was doing the best they could do at that moment in time. And that job served a purpose. There's a reason you did that. So you also give yourself compassion and grace for making that choice. It wasn't wrong at the time. It was the best decision at the time.
Diana, you better not make me cry on this podcast, girl. I'm welting up over here. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna cry on here with you. That's so good. And it's so powerful. I think about past jobs that I have and little tidbits that I learned from it, or I might think about it, with a moment of disdain or whatever it was. But at that point in my life, that version of me was doing the best that I could. You know what I mean? So I have to pay homage to that point in my life and appreciate it for what it was instead of resenting it because it wasn't where I wanted to be.
Oh,
Because
it's
that was the
self-forgiveness.
step. It was the stepping stool to where I am today. Ooh,
It's
yes, girl.
juicy self-forgiveness. I know, because that version of you doing the best she could, I can't hate. And so
Yes.
you begin to forgive yourself for things you've done that weren't necessarily wrong. They helped you get where you needed to be. And that shows this amazing level of acceptance and a level of gratitude. I know you want to talk about gratitude.
Oh, yes, girl. Yes. Get into it. What do I
Well,
have a question about gratitude? No, I'm just going to make it up. What is your relationship with gratitude then?
well, for me, I think gratitude is the emotional signature of abundance. What do I mean by that? Abundance mindset. So, not having lack or scarcity mindset. A true abundance mindset is where you've made the decision that there is enough. There is enough money out there. There's enough money for everyone that they can all go get their piece. There is abundant resources out there.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
then you're not in lack, you're not in scarcity, you're not narrowly focused and missing all that opportunity.
Right.
Gratitude is appreciating what's already there. It's not looking
Yes.
for something else, right?
Yes. And just being grounded in where you are and just expressing that gratitude for the space that you're currently in. So that is so important to not become so overwhelmed with where you want to be or where you aspire to be that you are not you're not filled with just what's the word I'm looking for? Just gratitude, for lack of a better word. Just filled with gratitude for where you currently are. Like you have to be happy. You don't have to be complacent with where you are, but you do have to be comfortable in whatever stage that you're currently in and give gratitude for where you currently are as well as gratitude for where you are where you're going, because something, me and my husband are very intentional about becoming millionaires to create generational wealth for our daughters. And one of the things I say every day is, my God, I love being a millionaire. And I am going to say that even when I hit that benchmark, our first goal is to hit 10 million, right? And I'm sure once we get to 10 million, it'll, go from there, because after you have the tool of how to make it, it's nothing to just multiply it, right? So I already live in that space of gratitude for something that I don't have quite yet. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah, it's
that
important to the
is
mindset
oh,
too.
sorry. Yeah,
No,
that's the
no.
manifestation. It's coming to you because that gratitude is like a magnet. It's like a gravitational force that's pulling it towards you. And I'll go to tell you that our brains, our human brains, are wired to show us loss. So our brains want to focus on that thing that we're attaining for, that $10 million that we don't have yet. And it's going to show us all the lack and how we don't have it. But gratitude is the practice to shift into, I already have it. I'm so grateful. Look at all this opportunity it affords me. Look at how much I have. Look at, I have this wonderful husband. I have these beautiful daughters. I have this amazing life where I get to share my gifts. And you start to focus on the gain rather than the loss of what your brain wants to show you. That is the gratitude magnet like you have. And then you add this level of your future self who's going to be rich and it's not there yet.
Woo! I'm so happy to have you on today. You're wonderful. This is fantastic. I have the best guest ever.
It's because
So
you just
let me ask you, what's a book that you read or you're reading or you're listening to right now that you used as a tool for personal development that you really love and you want to share with everybody?
Yeah, I would have to say I'm in the middle of because I'm savoring it. It's juicy and I still won't let myself finish it. Untamed by Glennon Doyle.
What's that about?
So, really, in that book, she talks about how she started listening to her inner knowing and really aligning with who she was. She talks about her struggles with bulimia. She talks about divorcing her ex-husband. She's got a podcast. She's dating Abby Wambach from the ladies soccer team. I think it's the US national team. And so anyway, it's all these changes in her life when she just started listening to her inner self. And the untamed part, it talks about being a caged cheetah in the beginning and how
Mm.
cheetah, when it's let go out of that cage, like, does it remember how to be wild? Is it still wild? It's still got inner wild. It's just been caged. And so untame yourself.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's good. I see how it comes full circle there. And isn't it funny how a lot of times in life we are caging ourselves?
Tell me more about that. Give an example for you.
Well, I feel like an example for me would be how I saw myself a few years ago. I thought that I was a wife and a business owner and a homeschooling mother. And then that was who I was, my identity. And I just I didn't feel comfortable enough in myself to live out loud in the way that I am now. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
funny because I I always like felt this gift. I felt this yearning, but just would just push it down, or didn't feel confident enough to show it to anybody. And so essentially, like, I was a slave to myself.
Are
And
we allowed
it
to
wasn't it's
swear on this, or do you do swear words or no?
no, I mean, it's up to you. I try not to, but yeah, that's just me. That's just my brand.
Okay.
But it wasn't until I got up and I spoke at a protest. It was a Black Lives Matter protest. And I stood up. I was like, I don't know if people are supposed to talk, but I feel compelled to speak. And I got up on the table and I could just see this massive crowd of people, and the energy there was so visceral and palpable, and it was wonderful. But it really unlocked that perspective I had of myself of being, wife, mom, business owner. And I was just like, no, I'm somebody that has something to say. I'm somebody that's not satisfied with society and wants to try to change it. I had shifted from operating it from a complacent space into operating in a purposeful space. And the shift was just like a light switch. Like it was always there, but I was trying to ignore it. And once I started to sew into it, I was uncaged. Yeah.
Yeah, when you live intentionally and when you really go inside yourself, because, in the true world of abundance, you already have everything you need. It's all inside of you. You
Right.
just have to listen to that truth and let the outside mirror the inside. Then it's not
Mm-hmm.
outside of you. You can align by listening in and checking in with yourself. And I asked about swearing because there's a rhyme that goes with committee, and so you have a nasty committee right on your shoulder that is your inner self-talk dialogue, and it's saying, oh, you're never going to do that, you're never going to be that. And so then trying to get a hold of that inner self-talk and that nasty committee, it really takes you knowing, like what your truth is and living that, like you knew what you wanted to do, you knew, so you just went to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny how if we don't check that voice, we start to feel as if it's a reflection of who we are, and we feel defeated by our own inner dialogue, essentially.
Or
So
I
one
think
of the
where it's misaligned. So if I don't check in with myself, I'm deviating too far off of what's my true north. And then I
yes,
wonder, why am I over here? Why am I activated? Why am I angry? What's happening? And so then you got
yes.
to get yourself righted again.
Oh my gosh, I talk so much to my oldest daughter. She's 12. And I'm really hyper focused on, kind self-talk right now. And it's interesting navigating the space of being a mother. And if she's kind of down in the dumps, and she gets into kind of, I think she gets it from me, but there's like this emotional tornado where if you're kind of agitated by something, then you just kind of spiral into thoughts that perpetuate your emotional state, and then it makes it larger than what it is. Like you go from one bad thought to another bad thought to another bad thought. And I can see it happening to her from sometimes. So I find myself trying to kind of navigate it in a way to where I'm honoring her, and like you said, holding space for her emotional state in that moment, but also trying to teach her that she has control over her mind and her thoughts, and her current emotional state is essentially an unconscious choice. So she can continue down this kind of rabbit hole of sadness, or she can start to, shift her perspective. So a lot of times I'll say, just tell me four things you're grateful for. You know what I mean? When she's starting to, so I listen to whatever it is she's struggling with. I'm quiet. I'm really cognizant of my facial expressions, what's going on with her. And then I say, well, what, baby, tell me four things you're grateful for, to try to shift it and to try for that to be something that she goes to as she grows through the ages, because I didn't know anything about emotional intelligence. It wasn't a conversation, it wasn't a practice. You were just mad, and whatever came out of your anger is whatever happened. And it was like, oh, well, I was mad. So, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to shut that down. I want that to end with me, and I don't want it to perpetuate with my girls. So that's interesting, trying to hold space, but also try to create a different mindset.
Well, and if your daughter is anything like I was when I was a teenager, I'm not going to listen when you're telling me what to do. No, but I'm going to watch you. I'm going to watch the next time you go through something like that. I'm going to watch you, doing something similar where I can see, the hamster running in the wheel, and I can see you going down that rabbit hole and
Spiraling.
what you do about it. And so part of it is you also, because you said you think she gets it from you. That's what I heard. And so if that's the case, then you get this great opportunity, knowing that she's watching everything you're doing, to exhibit it for her too, and just be out loud, catch yourself and be like, four things I'm grateful for right now. And then you just showed her that you do it too. That normal,
Oh, that's
right?
good. That's good. Because one thing I do with her is that as I am accountable for any behavior that I'm not super proud of in the moment. But what I'm not super focused on doing is exhibiting the behavior that I'm trying to teach her. I'm good at correcting myself, being accountable, because I feel like a child is just a person. She's on borrowed time with me. I don't own her. So I find it very important to apologize to her, to, to honor her as an individual and to respect her, even though she's a child. Growing up in the South, honey, that was not what we did. So I feel like I am really good in that area, but not so much on calling myself out, in terms of not necessarily calling myself out, but like you said, like stopping in that moment and correcting.
Yeah, it's something called radical personal responsibility. Like, you take responsibility for yourself and your actions. Sorry, I didn't mean to
Yes.
interrupt you. It resonated.
Oh no. Oh, you're so good. You sure you ain't a therapist? That's another certification you need.
No.
So tell me, what I love this question so much. What is your perspective on failure?
Mm. So I think I have a different definition of success than a lot of people out there. My definition of success, and then I'll talk about failure. My definition of success is how many hours of the day do I spend in empowering feelings that I want to feel? Like, in my human experience, I have chosen, I've listened to my inner voice, I've meditated on it. The way I want to feel in my life, I'll just give you mine. I want to be passionate. I want to be grateful, and I want to be limitless. And so I always ask myself, how can I make this situation 10% more limitless? How can I be 10% more passionate? And so if I'm not in hours of the day feeling one of those three ways or multiple ways, then that's failure, because I'm not feeling how I want to feel. My inner environment is not in my control, because if it was in my control, I'd be feeling those three things. So
Yes.
what I think about failure is that it's great evidence that we're not living how we want to live. How's that? And failure is necessary early and often. It's not about creating something perfect and beautiful out of the gates. I think it was on that Netflix show, Blown Away. It's not about what you can make, it's what you can fix. It's about constantly reiterating and tweaking to get it right and to recalibrate. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and that's so good. That's so good. And I think you're the first guest that I've had that equated failure to emotions. And that is
Tell me more.
amazing, because I've never heard it articulated in that way. But it is wonderful. So basically, success to you is being the master of your emotional state. I
Yeah, if I
love
want to
that.
feel easy and I don't want to feel stressed, and I find myself feeling that way, then what can I do right now that is in my control to change that? And then that's not failure. That's me figuring it out, noticing, being aware, and actually choosing how I feel and what I can do to
Ooh.
feel that way.
So, what do you do in a moment that you're feeling stressed? What's one of your tools or one of your tactics that you use to intentionally realign yourself with the way that you want to feel?
I have a few, and some of them involve swearing, some of them involve screaming, some of them involve rage rooms. Like, if you need to go out and release some healthy emotions, go axe throwing, go wax
I was just about
with
to
the
say that.
baseball. Yeah.
Axe throwing is really unbelievable. It's unbelievably stress relieving, honestly.
Uh-huh.
Like I've gone a couple of times and I'm just like, this is phenomenal. And you think you're gonna go and just, throw an axe at a wall, but you really don't realize how you have to focus and you have to breathe through and you have to see what you're aiming for. And it really involves a lot of alignment in that moment, right?
And good
It's
form when
powerful.
you're in your 40s so you don't throw something out. Like, yes. But that
I
really,
know that problem all too well, girl. I know it all too well. Yeah, so that's good. That's good. So that means you just take a moment and you step away and you do what it is that you need to do to get back to a good space.
yeah, something as simple as breathing. Like, I used to be in corporate America, and I can't always go outside and hit things with a baseball bat if I'm in back-to-back meetings. But what I can do if I'm sitting there, and some people may not even notice I'm doing it, measuring my breaths. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. And by regulating my breathing, that regulates your nervous system, that takes you from being activated.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can get out of that fight or flight or whatever mode, in our caveman brains, and get to a place where you can make rational decisions, where you can be connected to things again.
Yeah, I actually learned about that breathing technique. I think it's called square breathing or something,
Box
where
breathing.
you
Yeah.
box breathing. There it is. But that has definitely that technique right there, breathing in, holding for 4 seconds, like it really redirects you from whatever your stressor is in that moment, and it focuses you on your breath and the counting and the holding. And it's funny because the more boxes that you make, you'll be sitting there, you'll be winded, like, whew, okay. I'm
I
calm now.
haven't breathed since the last time I breathed.
Whew, what was I mad about? Now I can't breathe in this moment. But it's good. It's a good way to redirect your focus and focus on the breathing and calm down. I'm so glad you mentioned that. So, who do you think would be an excellent person for us to have on the podcast? If they're anything like you, I think they'd be magnificent. Who's somebody that we have to have on?
Like somebody I know, or like a dream, like have dinner with this celebrity kind of thing?
Oh, let's do both. That's fun.
I would have to say Lizzo right now, and I want her to bring James Madison's flute. I want her to I want everyone to get so mad because she plays all these old instruments and suddenly people care about music again.
I actually saw something about that on my timeline. I'm too busy to watch TV. If I watch something, I watch a show on Netflix and I'm off trying to refocus. But what happened with I saw something on my timeline about, oh, now everybody's a flautist and an expert. What ended up happening? So she just like played an old song. Like what happened with that situation?
So I read a little bit about this. So actually, and this is where I'm a CPA, I don't know much about it, but not all flutes are created equal. And so there's a certain instrument that she played in marching band, but she is so proficient and well trained in what she did that the flute she played in marching band is nothing like this 200-year-old flute. It's got like a different range, different measures, how you do the notes, how the sound moves. I guess it's all different. And so not everyone trained in this kind of flute can go and play another one. So it just showed that she's making beautiful music pour out of it. And she is so proficient at what she does. And she has such a good attitude about it. She can't be phased. Like, blame it on my juice. I'm busy. I got a song.
Yes. I'm winning.
She's aligned. She is doing it and she is empowered.
Yes, yes. Oh, that's so good. I should read that article and really see what happened, because if I see some mass media stuff happening, I just scroll by. I think the first thing that I've engaged in a long time on social media was the whole Will Smith Chris Rock thing, because it was just so out of character for Will. I just could not read about it and look at all the videos and listen to everything. But
so what was the lesson you took from that? So what in your work that you do with empowering people, what would you take from that interaction that Will Smith had, like from the point of view?
Yeah.
What did you learn?
Well, there was a couple of posts that I engaged in where people were, either team Will or team Chris. And I said, this is an opportunity for us to just express grace. None of us are perfect. If cameras followed us around 24 hours a day, they would get so many of our flawed moments. So just take a back seat for a moment and just put yourself in his shoes, in both of their shoes. You know what I mean? I'm sure it was humiliating for Chris. It was, devastating for Will. He lost a lot of deals behind that. Like, it didn't end well for either one of them. So, like, could we chill out on pointing fingers and just express grace towards both of those men in that moment? Like, why do we have to jump on? Why does everything have to be so like black and white? I feel like everything is gray.
I love that. And that's the thing, is that a little bit of empathy, of putting ourselves in each one of their shoes, we could see how something like that would happen. There are systemic pressures. There are like historical oppression and racism too, even just two Black men having that
Yeah.
conversation and interaction. Will
Yeah.
defending Jada, like, does she need him to defend her? Like, there's so
Yes.
many things you could look at in there. And so having that
Yeah.
grace is huge. Taking that breath to just pause, put yourself in their shoes, don't judge, but create the space
Right.
to be curious. As I wonder why they did that. Because there's motivation of meeting a human need in one of those. So whether
Yeah.
someone wanted to feel important, whether someone wanted to demonstrate love, whether someone wanted to share gifts and thought they were funny, like there's so many layers to that.
There's so many layers, and people are so divinely made and created that the layers we will never understand, and we're simply spectators. We have no idea what's going on within somebody's world or their personal life. We don't know. Will and Jada could have gotten a fight in the limo on the way there. She's like, "You don't love me," and he's like, "I'll show you I love you, darn gosh darn it." And smack this man at the eye. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I just choose to mind my business and observe and kind of articulate how it is that I feel about something in my mind, and also listen to other people's perspectives so that I can take opportunities to grow. But otherwise, you will never ever ever know. You know what I mean?
I do. I know we went on a little bit of a tangent there, and I thoroughly
No,
enjoyed it.
that's all right.
But if I'm going to bring it back to somebody else who should be on your show, I would be remiss to not plug my fiance. She works with teachers. She works at a company that she founded called Empowered Educator.
Shut
And
the front door. She has to be on.
it's about empowering teachers that are in our schools that actually they're not taking care of themselves. They're not putting their masks on first. Shooter drills, COVID, what we're at, like not like critical race theory, what we're asking of teachers is so much that they're burning out, and there's an actual crisis to have enough of them. And so she works really hard in the space of empowering teachers so they can show up as their best selves and be there for their students to live their why they got into that job in the first place. Like they don't get paid enough for this, you know?
Yes. And I would love to have her on. Give her the link. I think I've got some new openings up in December. It's pushed back now because I know it like stopped in November and people couldn't book anymore. But yeah, I'd love to talk to her about the empowered teachers because that's definitely a voice that we need to hear. I hear a lot of rumblings about teachers getting burnout and they feel like it's not worth it anymore, and they have deviated from the actual purpose of why they got into it to begin with.
They
So I would
forget
I
or
would
they're
love
so
to hear from her.
unaligned. Yes, and it's so needed. The kids need it. The next generation needs it.
Oh, and you're passionate about it. Oh, you're wonderful. You're gonna cry for your fiance. Oh my goodness. So we will definitely have her on. So our last question,
Yeah, hit
the
me.
last but certainly not the least. What is your favorite candy?
Oh my gosh. Do you know what I am hooked on right now? And I'm
What's
not
that?
even ashamed about it. It's these little like gummies coated in nerds. It's the new thing of nerds. It's like little gummy nodules. And like the nerds have like this rock candy crack that just like I can't stop chewing on. And it's so yummy and strawberry
So so
flavored.
so it's complete. So is it like the long sour gummies or regular gummies wrapped in nerds, or what flavor are the gummies?
I think it's strawberry or cherry. And like they
Okay.
have nerds ropes, so they'll do that and they lay it down in the nerds and just coat it. Or they have like the little nuggets.
That's interesting. I haven't seen that. I'm a chocolate girl myself, so I probably wouldn't even look at that second glance. My daughters, on the other hand, they're big into the bright and colorful and sour and sweet candies, so that totally would be up their alley.
Well, you can have my chocolate.
Yes. My favorite candy of all time. Have you ever had it? It's a chocolate covered cherry. They come
Mm.
in the red boxes at Valentine's Day, and then you get them for like 25 cents a box after Valentine's Day passes. The little cordials. Yeah.
Those exactly. They're so good.
Yeah. That's my favorite of all time. I look forward to Valentine's Day because I'm like, and I'll take 6 boxes.
Did you hear that, Alexandria's husband? Did you hear that? Go get her some.
I enjoy them so much. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. That was our last question. But look at this. 45 minutes just flew by. You're so insightful, and I'm so happy that you are aligned with the work that you're doing, and how impactful you are in the financial arena and with the children and everything that you're doing. I feel like you are probably just absolutely wonderful mentor for them, and just thank you for the work that you're doing. You are contributing to the future of our kids, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. And so are you.
Well, thank you.
You're fantastic. I've had so much fun. Some of these podcast interviews can be painful if people aren't like jiving. And I really like, all right, you go get your cherry cordials. I'll go get my nerds candy. Let's go hang out.
Well, I love it. You tell your fiance to book it. I'd love to talk to her about empowered teachers. And before we get off, let everybody know where they can find you, if there's any way they can support you, and just all of the handles.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Fan Your Flame LLC. And you can also find me on my website, www.fan-your-flame.com, because I was too cheap to buy the one word. So we got I mean, it's an investment in my future, but I got a budget.
Yeah, I know that's right. Yes, ma'am. Oh, well, thank you so much, Diana. And thank you guys so much for watching. And I hope that you enjoyed your time here with us, and that you were motivated, inspired, and most of all, empowered. Thank you so much. Thank you, Diana. Have a good night, darling.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.